Hey everyone, Adam Holtz here, your host of the Plugged In Show, focused on the family's weekly conversation about entertainment, pop culture, and technology. And this is a new feature on the Plugged In Show. We call it the Plugged In Show Aftercast. So each week after we get done recording, we are going to take some time to go live with you and be available to answer your questions, as well as taking a look at comments that we have gotten from previous weeks. So thanks for showing up. We look forward to spending a few minutes with you today, and we're excited to be back.
Indeed. We have some great new content that we're going to tell you guys about. But first, we just wanted to circle back to last week's conversation about Dungeons and Dragons and NF's new album, Hope.
Yeah, some of you left us some feedback on Plugged In social media accounts, and we wanted to discuss a few of those comments. So I'll take the first one, and you can.
Well, one of the questions we asked last week was, did you ever play Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, there you go. So Ronnie said, started playing in the mid-'70s, played a lot in college and in the early '80s, and I remember when the television movie with Tom Hanks came on, that was Mazes and Monsters, and that was, some of us were alive back then, some of us actually weren't alive yet. And that's the only time my mom raised questions, Ronnie said. Now I play with my son. And Mandy said, I understand the premise that people think it's demonic, but really you and the Dungeon Master determine gameplay so that you can make it anything you want. And then Archie added, after Focus on the Family's Castles and Cauldrons fiasco, I was surprised by your fair and balanced podcast. And, you know, I think that that's speaking to the tension that we have in evangelicalism about what do we do with this thing? Because there are some occult elements to D&D, but in some of it, it's just you're creating an imaginary fantasy adventure together. So I'm glad you thought that we had a fair and balanced approach, and we certainly want to approach everything in pop culture that way, and give you what you need to know to make good decisions for your families.
And Dana also added that as far as Dungeons and Dragons goes, it's only as satanic as you make it. So I think that just kind of comes back to, if you're playing the game, it's because you're making it up as you go. It's all based on your own imagination. It only has to be as dark as you want it to be. I mean, you could have it be, honestly, I'm kind of interested. I'd be interested in seeing somebody make a Bible themed Dungeons and Dragons playthrough. I think
that would be interesting, because I think, well, Jesus would beat those dragons.
Well,
right?
Maybe we could do like Old Testament stuff.
Right. Okay.
With all the warriors and everything. There's a lot to go off of if you're just using the Old Testament, all the wars and battles and stuff.
Yeah.
It could be interesting.
I think so. And Emily, do you want to tell us about the NF comments?
And
you're Emily Chow, by the way. I don't think you introduced yourself.
I did not. Hi, I'm Emily Chow. Yes, no. So the comments that we got, also from Dana, same Dana, she doesn't understand the focus on NF. The music isn't... She does not think that the music is as good, and she says that your review describing the Hope music video as art is just over the top. It's a double standard. And she goes on to say, there are many non-Christian artists that have much better music and videos that are heavily criticized simply because their music isn't Christian. But with NF, all the negative elements are overlooked and called art simply because they've labeled themselves as Christian. So I think that's a fair argument, though.
Yeah,
like, how often do we look at Christian artists and maybe overlook some of the negative elements because they've claimed that they love Jesus? And then how often do we look at people who haven't openly claimed that and just dismiss their entire thing because... You know, I feel like at Plugged In, we do try to find the balance. Like, if a music video is beautiful, if it has catchy lyrics, if the beat is entertaining, you know, we try to give credit where credit is due. But I also feel like it's really hard when, you know, you hear the F word 3 times. It's like, you can't really ignore that. It's part of the song, and it's part of that person's life and culture.
Well, and I think about somebody like Kendrick Lamar, and obviously we were talking about NF here. Kendrick Lamar has elements of the Christian faith woven into a lot of his rap, but like you're saying, you've also got explicit sexual content, really harsh profanity, and so different people are going to parse that differently. And I think one of the things that we do, maybe in some ways one of the most important things we do at Plugged In, is we want to give you the information about what's out there so that you can make the best decision for your family. And I would say, in terms of just trying to identify what the content issues are versus commenting on the aesthetic quality I'd say we're about 80-20. We're mostly focused on
Yeah.
here's what the content is. We will sometimes offer some commentary on the aesthetic quality. I wouldn't say that's the main thing that we're trying to accomplish here.
No, I think your analysis of 80-20, it's like, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, even if you just look at like our Plugged In Movie Awards, it's like that's a very fair example of 80-20, because we are giving maybe when we do those movie awards, it might even be more 70-30.
I
was going to say 70-30, because we are saying, hey, these movies may have problems, but here's a way that you can approach them from a biblical Christian perspective and maybe still enjoy them based on that, you know?
Yeah, and Nat also chimed in on NF, and it's N, the letters N, F, if you're like, what are they saying? NF is a rapper. It stands for Nate Feuerstein, so I think I'm pronouncing his last name right.
Don't look
If
at
I'm
me.
not, I guess I will hear in the comments that I butchered
Let
that.
him know if he butchered the name.
But Nat says, not everyone will like his music, but to claim that NF's music and videos are being upheld as art solely because he happens to be a Christian is a pretty ignorant and shallow analysis. So this is a response to what Dana had to say. NF has actually been more criticized within Christian circles because his music is too dark, or because he doesn't usually reference God directly.
I've heard that argument.
Yeah,
So yeah.
And NF has a really, really hard background. He's been compared to Eminem stylistically, and even parts of his story. And so he's coming from a really gritty place. And he goes on to say, at the very least, regardless of whether you think he's a good rapper, his video production has been consistently very good. The color grading, the camera work, the continuity between videos, the symbolism. Sure, Plugged In has been giving him props, but why wouldn't they mention him here and there? Why wouldn't they mention him here and there? He's one of those unique artists whose talent and wide reach led him to successful crossover into secular music. His last 2 albums reached #1 on Billboard, and he's accomplished that without losing his moral compass. Present in his early music, and when it was still labeled Christian rap, it's frankly unsurprising that Plugged In would take notice. So, appreciate your comments, Nat. Well, Emily, where are we headed this week with the Plugged In show?
Tomorrow, which is Thursday, April 6th, we are dropping a new episode, and it's titled If I Could Do It All Over Again, plus On a Wing and a Prayer.
And that episode is about, for parents,
Yes.
if you look back on your parenting, and thought, man, I
if
wish
you could do it all over
if
again.
I knew then what I knew now.
Yep.
What would you tell yourself?
And then On a Wing and a Prayer is a movie.
It is, and it stars Dennis Quaid as a fairly nice, rich guy taking his family home, and the rich part is salient because he has chartered a private plane. But wouldn't you know it, the pilot dies of a heart attack, and he has to learn how to fly a plane, which sounds like a made-for-TV Disney movie, but it's based on a true story. So
that sounds
there
terrifying.
you go.
Well, if he could do it all over again, maybe he wouldn't have chartered that plane.
That's exactly right.
So that episode is actually, so here's the deal. Normally, we release our episodes at midnight on Thursday, but because we have special behind the scenes privileges and such, our episode tomorrow will not release until 9 a.m. because of an embargo. So you're going to have to just wait a couple more hours to get your Plugged In show fixed.
Yeah,
so,
if you're used to waking up and listening to the Plugged In show at 5:30 in the morning, we're going to have to make you wait just a little bit tomorrow.
Just a little bit.
Well, anything else that we need to talk about today here, Emily?
Do we have any comments
Luke,
coming
any
in right
comments
now?
coming in?
We got a comment back towards the beginning when you were talking about a biblical version of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So hypothetical, this is from Laura. Imagine you come to the Red Sea with the Egyptian army behind you.
Yes.
What would you do?
See, this is what I'm talking about. Somebody needs to make this happen. All you dungeon masters out there, make a Bible-based, what do you call it when you...
Adventure?
Adventure. Make a Bible-based adventure. I don't know. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. I just like the stories.
Right.
I don't know what they're all called.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks, Laura, for that comment. And as we do this each week, we look forward to having more of you participate and throw your comments up, and then we can respond to them in real time. But I think that is about what we have for this week. So thanks for joining us for this episode of the Plugged In Show Aftercast.